Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another week of our photography review show. I hope you had a great week, and I hope you're ready for more photography fun. Now, if you've never been here before with me, my name is Jakub, and I'm a professional photographer based in West Sussex, England. So, what we're gonna do here today in photography review show, we have some pictures from our community. We're gonna look at them, and we're actually gonna look at three parts of each of the image. In the first part, we usually look at the technical part of the image. We look at the camera settings, we look at the sharpness, the light, and so on. After that, we look at the artistic part of the image. We basically look at the composition, the overall message, and everything that comes with that. And at the end, I take the image, and if there is something I feel like we could add to it, I take it through the photo editing and give you some tips on what I would do differently. And hopefully, the overall feedback will help you to take your photography and move it into the next level. So that's what we're gonna do today. Now, if you want to join us in the future, it's super easy. All you need to do is to head to our website cleverphotographer.com and look for the membership there. Once you click on it, you can join our membership, where for little fee, you can join us on our weekly photography review shows. Then you're going to also get our monthly photography bundles. Usually it's over 200 different digital elements, including presets, overlays, LUTs, brushes, anything that you can imagine, textures. It all comes together nicely bundled in a theme. And this month we had a really popular seascape bundle. So for that little fee of monthly membership, you will get this bundle, and you will also be able to join us for the photography review show. So to join us is super easy. Join our membership and send us pictures for the next week. So anyway, welcome back. If you already been with us before, I hope you're gonna have a fun again, and it's time to start. So today we have five photographers. It's good to see that one after the break we had through the New Year, Christmas, and winter, we're starting to get the numbers going up again. And we're gonna start with Ed. So Ed, you sent us four pictures. I'm gonna review two of them just to keep it all together. Now, I was looking at them a little bit earlier. This one sadly is really small quality. So once I zoom in, it all get kind of distorted and very pixelated. So I will not look at that one. And this one is a higher quality, but it's kind of soft and it has a lots of stuff happening around. So today I will look at this little macro capture, and I will also look at this black and white or monochrome landscape. So let's do it. So starting with the landscape, and once again, starting with the first part, talking about the technical tag. Now, usually I look at the camera details, which here are not really available. So we can't really say. So if I can't see the camera details, then I'll look at the image and let's just kind of see things I can see. Now, I hope that I'm right to say that this is like a beach or sand with some kind of sea happening here. Now, if we try to, and of course I jump out, if we try to zoom in a little bit closer, let's have a look if we can maybe see at least what we're looking at. If it's like a little pebbles, oh, I think it's a bird. So this may be from a really high cliff. And yes, as always, if you hear through the live podcast, more than welcome to say hello on our comments. We are streaming this live on our YouTube channel, Facebook, and also on our Clever Photographer Academy group. So if you hear, just say hello, say where you're watching from, and if you have any questions for photography, photo editing, and maybe Luminar Neo, please go ahead and put them in the comments. I will try to answer them throughout the show. So once again, coming back to the image, we are looking at this landscape capture. So I can see some birds. So it's probably a really big scene. And looking at it, I think the details are quite good. I really like the texture. I quite like the light. I really like the contrast. It's almost like some sort of black and white gradient when you kind of have the dark and a grayer and a different like a color. It just works really nicely together, and I'm quite happy about that. So from what I can see, because I don't have the camera details here, it's looking quite good. Now, talking about the artistic part of this image, I actually really like it. It's something that when I open it, I first got struck. Out of the four photos, when I look at them, I went straight into this one because I was really interested. What is it I'm looking at? So I really like that. I really like the texture. I like the contrast. I like the light. I think it really works together. Now, one thing that I think would be beneficial for the overall image, and you could have seen me earlier to see um, the how I was kind of zooming in and out to see what we are looking at. One thing that would be beneficial to have something on it that would help us to recognize the scale of the image. So basically, just anything that could be anything that a human eye recognizes. That could be a human, car, tree, house, anything that would just help us to say, okay, this is maybe like several miles long, or this is several meters long. So just something that would help us there would definitely help for the overall composition. Now, since you went for this kind of minimal look, I would personally maybe go ahead and try to remove few of the parts just to remove the distraction, and we can look at that in the edit a little bit later. But other than that, I think it works super well. As I say, I'm really intrigued by it, and with a little bit of cleaning, I think it's definitely something that could be printed, and I think it would actually look very good. So well done on that. Really, really nice capture, and I'm quite happy with it. Now, let's select the second image I wanted to look at. And again, we don't have a data on it. Let's have a look if we have here. No. So Ed, if you're going to send us pictures in the future, try to attach to it the data about how you capture it. It should come as a part of your picture that should just show here. I'm sure if I'll jump into Evgeny, you can see how much I can see here. And it will definitely help me to just look at your image in the future. So let's go back to your Ned here. Again, looking just through what I can see, if we zoom in, it's a kind of smaller resolution of the image, but that's no problem. I think the sharpness is quite nice. I really like the color. I really like the light where it's coming from. I think that works really well. Lots of little details. It almost looks like there's some pearls on the net, and I think it works super, super well. So Ed, I really like this image. Again, very abstract. And I can really see how maybe you have an eye for this type of pictures, because I can see it on this, how really the kind of color and texture mixed with a really nice contrast works very well. And where this one, again, nice texture, nice contrast, and kind of minimal look. So coming back to this image and talking about composition or the artistic part of it, I think it works really nice. The Obviously, the spider web creates really nice leading lines, bringing your eyes all the way through this part, which I think is sitting somewhere about the golden ratio third. So, when you kind of paint the lines through, when you divide the image on equal three parts, eventually the lines connect and it would be here. And I think that works really nicely. Again, the minimal look with the contrast works well too here. I'm quite happy that it's not just black and white again. I think the color, this kind of teal color, works super well. So well done on that. And the light coming from one side, again, creating a really nice, very pleasant scene. And with a little bit of sharpening and a higher resolution, I definitely think that that could be a picture you could print for yourself again. So Ed, in overall, congratulations, great image and well done. Now, when it comes to editing, I wouldn't really do anything differently here. I think it works. I would sharpen it, but for that, I would use something like Topaz Sharpening Pro, or maybe the Super Sharp AI here in Luminar, or just really like a heavy sharpening in Photoshop, depending on what photo editing application you have. But other than that, nothing. Well, on this one, I already told you I would just personally clean it up a little bit, because if you're going for that minimal look, maybe there is just a few birds which are a little bit extra. Now, this is totally artistic decision. It's nothing to do with what is right or wrong. It's just something I would do just not to distract the viewer, because the scene can get busy. And if I'm doing this minimal look, that's what I would do. So you could use a simple erase tool, for example. Just adjust the size of the brush and then select the parts that you want to remove. So I would just remove the birds that are a little bit kind of distracting. So these three, there's also a little black spot here I was looking at earlier. And I would probably leave the rest. I think the white part work quite nicely here. There is a little bit I would remove here as well. And once I would be finished, all I need to do here is to click on erase. It takes a moment, and then it basically removes the spots I was talking about, the birds, and I think it's all a little bit cleaner. I could go deeper on this if I would want to, but I think it works super well anyway. Also, another thing you could try to do is to enhance the contrast even further. Here in Luminar Neo, they have this super cool tool called Super Contrast. It's in a professional tools, and it works just like contrast, but what you can do, you can actually control the amount of contrast specifically in let me just zoom in so you can actually see a little bit more. You can control the contrast specifically in highlights, midtones, and shadows. So for example, I could really work around with the highlights contrast and see if I want any of that, but I don't think. Maybe for the midtones, I think that works a little bit better, and just bring a little bit of contrast into the shadows here. So I think just very gentle difference right here. Also, if you would want to enhance your texture, what I would do then, I would go back to the essential tools and use the details tool here. And with the small and medium details, just increase them ever so slightly and get a little bit more of the texture standing out. So this is what I would do for this ad. I hope it was helpful. If you have more images, make sure you send them to us for next week. And until then, thank you very much. Which will bring us to Evgeny. Evgeny, 2 images from you this week. One with the gentleman on the river or lake, and other one with your favorite subject, chipmunk, squirrel, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, starting with this image right here. Let's talk about it. Let's have a look at the camera details. So we are still with the Pentax K100D Super. And from the camera settings, ISO 200, 70 millimeters, f11, 1/80th, 1/180th of a second. So ISO 200, yeah, that's like I always say, as low as you can go. And I remember that this camera can go lower than 200, so that's fine there. 70 millimeters is a nice zoom, so you're all good there. f11 giving you sharpness all the way through. And then 1/180th of a second is probably what the camera gave you, just to make sure that we have a nice light and nice level of sharpness. So these guys, they are sharp, or at least him, they're sharp, probably a fisherman. There's a details and texture all the way through, so well done on that. Just kind of zooming back out, looking at the overall image, I think technically quite well captured. Now the light is a little bit flat. I think there's a lots of light happening everywhere. You get also this kind of deeper shadows, but in overall, I think it's quite fine. I think technically it's quite good. Now, when we come to the composition, like that, quite few things I like on these images. One, I like the fact that the fisherman is there, which really gives us really good sense of depth as well as scale. I also like the colors on the foliage and the canopy. You know, the mixture of yellow, green, red, I think works very well. These trees are quite nice too. I also like this foreground. Now, I'm not a big fan of high frequency foreground when there is lots happening, and this is kind of on the edge of being really busy, but on the other side, it helps with the depth. So we have the depth here, and then we have the gentleman, and then we have the forest at the back. I think in overall, just it works nicely all together. So in overall, I'm quite happy. Just coming back, there is some sensor dust we need to take care of a little later, and just kind of keep an eye on your lens and camera. But all in all, really lovely picture. When it comes to this image, we are on the same camera, ISO 200, 300 millimeters, so super zoom in, f8, 1/125th of a second. So looking at the image, sharpness is great. I really like the bokeh at the back. The details are beautiful. The light, the diffuse light works super well here. And I think this is really lovely, lovely picture. I'm really happy about this, Evgeny. The details on the fur, on the ears, on the tail, the really nice background created with this blur, softness, bokeh works super well as well. I really like the fact that even the tree is still in detail. So we really have this animal coming out. I think altogether it works super well. I think it's really nicely captured. So on camera details here, well done. When it comes to composition, nothing I can add. Obviously, the animal is there in full. It has a space in front. The depth is really nicely created with the soft background. The light is great. The subject is there. I think it's just a great capture. It's really, really lovely. I really enjoy this image, and there is nothing I would do differently. So well done on this one. Now on this one, what could we do? Let's bring it into the edit module. First, I would remove the sensor dust. And actually here in Luminar Neo, that can be done super easily. All you need to do is to go into the erase and just click on remove dust spots. So that will take a few seconds. It will scan the image and it will remove the dust for us. So that just happened. We can close the erase tool and continue. Now, since we have this kind of flat light, what we're looking for is to create some local adjustments to create a little bit more interest in certain areas. So I would close the image a little bit from the bottom, create a darker gradient from the bottom, and maybe also from the top. And then I would take a brush and create some lighter areas just to highlight some of the lights. So how to do that? Let's quickly jump into the develop tool, bring down the exposure somewhere around -15, and then we're going to use masking and linear gradient from the bottom just to close it. So now we can adjust it still, let's say somewhere around here. And once we finish, we just go back. So let's have a look before and after. If we want, we can go back to the adjustments and just make it even darker if we want to. Now we can close it. So it goes into our layers panel, and we can open another tool again, develop, bring the exposure down again, somewhere around -20, use the masking, linear gradient, and this time paint it from the top. Now I can adjust its position somewhere around here, and then back, and there we go, little darker areas on the top. Now, in overall, what I would do, I would just open it and just bring the overall exposure down a little. So let's say -0.1 maybe, something like this. Close it. And now we're going to do the opposite. We're going to actually bring some parts back where we can, maybe with a little bit of extra vibrance. And this time we're going to use masking, and let's just make the brush bigger and paint over the areas we want a little bit brighter, standing out. So I think something like this. If we want, we can also highlight some other parts of the forest and do something like this. Now let me show you before and after. And you can start to see what I'm trying to do, how I'm trying to manipulate the light around. This is very kind of basic way to do it, how you could spend and hours if you would want to, but this is how you would do it. This is how you would play around. Now if I would want to poke some of the colors even further, I could go into the color tool, increase the vibrance here just to make it stand out a little further, go into the HSN panel and saturation here, and then bring some of the yellow and orange out even further. So that way, again, I'm making it all stand out a little bit more. So there you have it, Evgeny. This is what I would do with this image. I hope it was helpful. Either way, both of the images are great. I really enjoyed looking at them. So well done, and I hope to see more images from you next week. Which brings us to John. John, we have a portrait and we have this winter capture. So let's jump into it. Starting from here, our favorite subject. So I always really like to see this model because I think it works super well. The features on her face, it just works all really nicely together. And I'm starting to run out of words on what to tell you on it because clearly you're really good at this. It works really nicely, this kind of low-key portrait with the darker areas, creating a really nice contrast. I think it works super well. So John, really well done on this. It works great. The eyes, the features, everything really nicely captured together with a great level of details. Just well done. Anyway, still, let's have a look at the camera detail here. We are looking at Nikon D850 with a 35mm lens. And from the camera settings, ISO 100, 35mm, f1.4, and 1/400 of a second. So from camera setting point of view, ISO 100, great, making sure that we remove as much of the digital noise as possible. 35 millimeters, lovely for portrait capture like this. F1.4 giving us this really nice depth, lovely kind of softer background, and 1/400 of a second, making sure that we have everything nice and sharp. So well done on this one. Let's just kind of zoom in. I mean, the level of the details in the eyes is just crazy. I really like that. I think it's super well done. Um, just great. It's just great. Now, obviously, we have a sharpness on the eyes, and with the f1.4, with that distance, you can see how we're losing a little bit of the details on her nose and on the forehead. Now, maybe this is something what you done with the brush, and it's artistic decision. So I don't want to judge it because I think in overall it works. But you just want to keep an eye on the distance and on the sharpness, because I would probably prefer her face, at least up to the ears, to be all in focus, and just start maybe from ears behind, or maybe from around this area. Still, the eyes are beautiful. The sharpness is great. So well done. Now, moving to the composition or artistic, I don't really have much to say. It works really well. This monochrome with the really nice contrast of the dark and bright put together with the black background, the brighter foreground. I just think it works super well. And other than keeping an eye on the focus on the face itself, I think it's super nice. John, well done. Congratulations. Great capture again. I wonder if you do wedding photography, or if you do portrait photography for more people, or I know at some point I was looking at some of your pictures, and I know you were saying you also do pet photography, maybe like a dogs. So either way, this just really works for you. Looking at the second image, more of a frozen landscape. Lovely capture. So let's talk about it. What we have here, Nikon D850. And now let me have a look. So same camera, same lens. This is a Nikon D850 with the 35 millimeter lens. And from the camera settings, we are on ISO 64, 35 millimeters, f1.4, and 1/1000 of a second with a 5-step exposure adjustment. Okay, that's fine. Either way, looking at it from this point, great level of details, lovely texture. Now with the f1.4, what I really like is that it gives us this like a frame which is created with a little bit of softness. So we see a little bit of depth. I think that actually works super well, but you just need to make sure that you're focusing on the right area of the image, which in this case it's the gate and the wall, and that works really well here. So that I think works really well. And again, then we gradually go into the background where it's getting softer, and I think that really works very well. So I'm very impressed with this lens. I think that works for this very well as well. So technically very well done. The light, it is what it is. It's winter. We have the frost nicely captured, nice level of sharpness and details, altogether really nice. Now, when it comes to composition and artistic part of the image, what would I do here? Not much differently. Obviously, it would be great if maybe there would be somebody there, but you don't really have to have that. I would maybe crop in a little bit further, just maybe to remove the top, or maybe just make it a little bit more focused on this area. Altogether, I don't really have much to add. I think it works very well. The depth with the soft background and soft background and soft foreground works super well. The light is nicely diffused. It's very minimal, very clean. Although it's quite a busy scene, you still see how the less colors really help to organize the scene, and I think altogether it works very well. So John, well done on this one. Great capture. When it comes to photo post-processing, not much I would do here. There is a little bit of vignette kind of there, and the vignette is naturally there. You can see how the color and the bright part of the image naturally attract the eyes inside of the image. So not much more I would do here. Again, like I said earlier, you could crop it differently, but I think it actually works. If anything, you could go a little bit tighter. I wonder if you would completely lose the top. What would it do? Let's just have a look. I want to go for the cinematic 16:9 here and see if I can just go somewhere around here. Then it kind of become completely different image because suddenly you don't have the front. Let's have a look, something like this. I'm not so sure. I think I like your version better. So it's always worth to try, see different things. I think this works really well, and altogether, it's really well done. Not much I would adjust. So great job. John, thank you very much for sharing your images. It was a pleasure to see it. Portrait, spot on. This is also a very lovely capture. So I hope to see more of your images very soon. Which brings us to next photographer, and this time we're looking at the images from Patrick Atlas. Patrick, thank you so much for sharing your images. It's great to see you back to the show. We obviously seen your images in the past, so this time we're gonna be looking at capture of the, I'm assuming this is the underground in Paris. I hope I'm right about that. And then this very lovely portrait photo. So starting from this capture right here, let's have a look at it. Sony 7 Mark 4 with the 24 to 70 lens. And then we're looking at ISO 100, 32 millimeters, f2.8 and 1/15 of a second. So as a camera setting go, this is spot on. 100 on ISO, making sure that we leave any noise out. F2.8 is a little bit lower than I would do, but then obviously looking at it, maybe you needed to work with the shutter speed. So I understand 1/15 of a second, again, giving us really nice level of details, sharpness. If you were on a tripod, obviously it is what it is. It's really lovely. So in overall, lovely scene. We clearly know what the main subject is. I really enjoy the warmth glow, which creates a really nice contrast for the otherwise colder scene and colder composition. So you have this kind of cool tones all around, and then we have this warmth coming from the underground, which kind of creates a story. I like how you place your camera so you can actually see inside. So it's very inviting, and it can kind of let your viewer use the imagination and see what works. So well done there too. One thing I would keep an eye on is this glow you're getting here, which I'm not sure what it's really from, but maybe it's to do with the contrast between the brighter and darker areas. But that's just one thing I would keep an eye. Otherwise, it's lovely capture. The square works very well, and you, the one who probably know better what's happening outside of the crop. So I think the square on this is good. It's quite tight crop, but in overall, lovely picture. Which brings us to your portrait image here. So we're looking at this young lady playing with the leaves. She has this little car. Now, looking at the leaves, I'm gonna take a judgment here and say they were added in post-production, which I have absolutely no problem with. But let's start by looking at the camera details first. So first thing first, we are on the same camera, same lens. So still Sony 7 Mark IV, 24 to 70 on a lens. And moving on to the camera settings, we have an ISO 100. Then we have a 70 millimeters, f2.8 and 1/1000 of a second on the shutter speed. Now, yeah, it's coming back to the same story I was saying earlier. ISO 100, making sure that it's as low as possible and it's as clean as possible. F2.8 giving us a really nice, really nice depth of field. So we obviously have the main subject with this very gradually soft background. And 1/1000 second is shutter speed. You probably need it for the movement and everything. So all in all, camera settings all good. The light is very interesting here with the kind of backlit from there. The rest of it is quite diffused, which again works nicely, and in overall just creates a really nice scene. When it comes to artistic part and the composition, I think it's nicely done. I like the tracks, which creates a little bit of interest behind hair. The depth is great. Let's just zoom in a little bit. The overall composition, the idea works very nicely. The leaves are very interesting. Now, one thing I would say is that I don't think that the leaves would be transparent. So I think it works all the way up to here. And then you see that the leaves look a little bit transparent. If not, then maybe they were moving. So as they were moving, they created this kind of through you. I'm not 100% sure, but it's just something to maybe keep an eye on in the future. Other than that, Patrick, I think it's a lovely image. Well done there. Not much I can add to it. Not much I can add to your images from the photo editing neither. I think this is very well done. I would keep an eye on the transparency there. And on this one, not much to do neither. I mean, you could, if you would want to, increase the warmth a little bit just to enhance the overall contrast. Here in Luminar Neo, you can do that with a simple golden hour slider to create something like this. You could add additional vignette, choose the subject as in the middle of the underground, and then close the picture even further. You could also go into the color, then into the HSL panel, and in the saturation, you could bring down the blue just a little bit, just to remove a little bit of the contrast. Now, let me show you before how strong it is and how it creates the halo. And when I bring the saturation of the blue down a little bit, it just makes it a little bit more natural. So there you have it, Patrick. Thank you so much for sending your images. I hope to see more of them in the near future. Otherwise, you take care and stay safe. Which brings us nicely to the last photographer of the week, Zdeněk. Zdeněk, we have two images, mighty bird, and we have this lovely landscape photo. So starting with the bird. Looking at it, we have a Canon 77D with the 55 millimeters to 250 millimeters lens. Now, from the camera settings, ISO 100, 225 millimeters on the zoom, f5.6, and 1/250th of the second. So as a camera setting, it's spot on. ISO 100, trying to avoid any additional noise, 225 millimeters, so really nice zoom here. F5.6 giving us this really lovely soft background, and 1/250th of a second, making sure that the bird is sharp. And the bird is sharp. Looking at it by zooming in, I think it's a lovely image. Really, really, really nice. Lots of lovely details and also great capture, which brings me to the composition, which I think works super well here. Obviously, the full bird there in interaction with the tree, having that kind of active space in front of it, giving a really nice balanced composition, a lovely contrast of the colors, the depth created with the lens and the softer background works really well here as well. And I think altogether, this is just a lovely capture, really nice picture. What I would say is that maybe when we finish with the second image, we can try to go into the edit module and remove these branches, which are a little bit distracting because they don't really have a meaning for me there. But that is totally artistic thing to do. I wouldn't worry too much about it. The rest of the image is brilliant. Well done. Congratulations on this great capture. Then we have the landscape picture. So let's talk about it. What we have here? Canon M50 with the lens 24 to 105. Then we have the ISO 100, 24 millimeters, f11, 1/125th of a second. Zdeněk, camera setting is fine. ISO 100, yeah, 24 millimeter, f11, making sure that we have a sharpness all the way even up to the mountains, as I can see. And we have the 1/125th of a second. So looking at it, technically it's nicely done. The sharpness is good. Now, what obviously I have to mention here is the choice of the day, because I think where this image is really losing is the overall flat light, where everything is lit and there is no contrast, there is no like a local focus, and everything is very it's just all very same. It has a same light, same contrast, same texture. Now, when it comes to composition, I quite like it. I quite like how the two trees are actually creating that V shape. It gives us a really nice, interesting subject here. But other than that, there's also lots other things happening. So I understand the idea of the trees and the mountain in the middle, but I think for it to work, we will have to try to do something to just bring the focus on a center. So what could we do here? Let's take the image, bring it into edit module and see. Obviously, you could do some sky replacement. Now the light is coming from here, so I'm not 100% sure what we could do. Let's just quickly try. Now we have a little bit of extra time, so let's see what it's gonna do. If I just gonna change the sky, let's see how good job it's going to do from there. And actually it doesn't do great job because there is a lots of details around the tree. Obviously we could replace it to another blue, and that's where we would take it. So looking at the messages, I can see that Zdeněk message that it wasn't actually edited. Cool. So in that case, but what's the what format is it? Is it still JPEG? I think maybe it is still JPEG. Let me see. Quick look. CR3. No, it is a raw file. So why is it not opening? Either way, we're gonna give it a go, Zdeněk. Let's go for it. Okay, so basic development, starting from the beginning, jumping into essential tools, starting with the develop tool. What I would do, go into the optics, and let's have a look. There is no noise really, so I would start by adjusting the noise reduction and sharpness. In the noise reduction, with this level of noise, which is pretty much none, I would probably go somewhere like 10 to 15. And after that, what I would do, I would use the formula I have, which is number 100. 100 minus 15 is 85. So into sharpening, I would put 85. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm adding now sharpness to everywhere. So I'm actually introducing some noise to the sky. So what I would do in the sharpening, I would increase the masking to somewhere around 75, making sure that I'm only sharpening the areas of the image that have a texture and details in it. So that would be sharpness and noise reduction. After this, we're going to jump into the light and black and white, while we also going to bring on our clipping masks. We can do that by looking at our histogram, click on the two white dots, and now we're going to bring the highlights down. Just close the overall image, so some around minus 80, still looking at the histogram. Open up the shadows a little bit, but not crazy because I'm making it a little bit brighter, you see. So I think just somewhere around 60. Once I'm done with the highlights and shadows, I will move into the blacks and whites. And with the blacks, I will bring them down again a little bit. So let's say minus 26, 24. And then with whites, we're going to open them up as well. Let's go no more than 30. After this, we can go back into the light, add a little bit of contrast here. And with the exposure, I would make it just a little bit darker, somewhere around here. Once we finish with this, we can jump into the curve, and let's have a look here. If we can, I wonder if we can just move our white point so we get it on the beginning of our spectrum. And that's what we do. When you look at the histogram on the top, you can see how I'm positioning all the data into the areas where we have data in it. So something like this. So that's what I would do with the curves, black and whites, and light. Finally, we need to adjust our colors here. So we're going to go into the color area. I think it's just a touch too warm for me. So bring the warmth down a little bit. And do we need to put a little bit of tint? No, we leave the tint alone. Overall saturation, I would actually bring down to somewhere around minus 10 and work around with it with our vibrance. So this is for the color. So I adjusted temperature a little bit. I think it was touch too warm for me. I didn't play around with the tint because there isn't any really. I have brought down the saturation because everything was just super colorful. And then I brought back some of the vibrance in the areas that were not too saturated. So that's the initial development. Now let's have a look at the before and after. And I think we're getting somewhere. After this, a little bit of cropping. Let's see. I think the crop is quite good. I wouldn't do much, maybe just a little bit closer. Once I would be done, just hit enter and leave it there. And then we can move on. What we could do, we could now apply a little bit of vignette, just close the overall image. And then just choose the center of the vignette. So I think somewhere around here. And then move into some of the creative tools here. Maybe apply some of the mystical tool, which I think works quite nicely. And that's about it here. Then move into the professional tools with the super contrast, maybe apply a little bit of extra contrast with the mid-tone contrast here. And that's it for this part. Now would be time for me to maybe apply some local adjustments. So what I would definitely do is I would close the image from the bottom to increase more focus on the trees and on the mountain. So quite heavily down, somewhere around minus 0.4, masking, linear gradient, and just close it from the bottom. So somewhere like this. Once I'm done here, I can close this and let's have a look if we need to actually close it even more. Yes. And I would definitely do the same for the sky. What we could also try just in Enhance AI to actually use the sky enhancer. And then again, back to develop, minus on the exposure, and with the masking, close the sky from the top. So something like this. Let's have a look. Before and after. And I think that is all so much better. Let's have a look again on the beginning and where we are now. Now, finally, a little bit more local adjustments, again, with more developed tool. This time, we're going to just darken some parts even further. So again, minus 0.34, yeah, masking brush, and we're going to just paint it to the areas we want to make darker. So I'm setting up quite large brush. I want my softness to be on 100, and with the strength, let's start with 100. So I'm just going to make this part's a little bit darker because I really want my focus to be on the trees and on the mountain at the back. So something like this, and there you have it. Finally, if we want, we could jump into details, increase them a little bit on the small details and medium details just to get a little bit of extra details on our main trees. And again, I would mask it with the paint, full on softness, full on strength, adjust the size, and just paint the details on our trees. It doesn't have to be exact. It's just for the local adjustment. So there you have it. Let's have a look. Zdeněk, before and after. And I think it's quite cool. What we could do to finish it off, and you see, once I start in Luminar Neo, there is no stopping. We could actually replace the sky there because, I mean, you have a one or two, not with this one. We had a better sky earlier, which was just blue skies with some clouds on it. You could totally do something like this. But let's have a look if I have some more interesting blue skies. No, this is way too blue. I had a nice blue sky earlier there. Maybe I need to go, well, this would be interesting, but if I go into the blue skies and let's just use one of the presets here. Yeah, I think maybe something like this would give us just some texture into the sky. Now you need to keep an eye, making sure that the masking works well here. For example, let's just make sure that our horizon position is correct. And it is now. So something like this, vertical position of the sky is perfect. And with the horizontal position, I think we could. After this, we can go into the scene relight the scene and add some saturation. And I think that is all good. And to top it off, anytime I add the sky, what I do is then I add LUT. But looking at some of the details, I'm getting a little bit of glow on the new sky. So let's just quickly see on our sky if I can fix the details with fixed detail slider. And if close gaps gonna help us, but that didn't do anything. So with the global, let's have a look if it will remove some of the halo. Just need to wait a moment. With the raw file, the edit takes a little moment, and I think that helped a little bit. So I just zoom out now, and we can have a look once everything sharpens nicely together, the before and after. I think it's better. Now we're getting a little bit of kind of yellow film over the mountain there. So I wonder if with just brush and erasing part of it would help. We just need to try. Sometimes you just gotta try and see. And I think that helped a little bit. I have removed a little bit of the tree, but that doesn't matter because it looks like there is a highlight there. So this is very quick edit. Don't take me too much. for a guide. Obviously, we have some parts still there maybe to fix, but I think it's good. Anyway, once you apply the sky, you replace it. What I would do, I would apply LUT to it just to merge and blend everything together. And this can be done in a mood tool. In a mood tool, we can just check some of the LUTs that are already here. Definitely not Anaheim. I usually like to use the Long Beach. I think that works really nicely. We can try another one, Los Angeles. Los Angeles could work nicely too. Let's quickly keep Palm Spring, maybe a little bit too warm. Riverside, maybe the Riverside. Let's have a look. Before and after. With less saturation, maybe something like this. Not Riverside then. Let's have a look quickly. San Diego. No, not my kind, but some people could like that. Santa Barbara, maybe Santa Barbara. But actually, originally, I really like the Long Beach. I think that works really nice. Let's have a look before and after. One more time, I would finish it off with even more vignette to close the image, adjust its position somewhere around here, and that's about it. So, Zdeněk, let's have a look at the before. This is where we started. And after. So this is what I would do with the image like this if I would really want to push it. You know, kind of some things I'm thinking about when I'm looking at the image like this is obviously the contrast, how I can add more focus on the specific areas of the image I really want to highlight for the viewers, which in my case were the trees and the mountains, how I can remove the focus on the other areas, which I always really like to use the simple dodge and burn, which as you can see, I'm still doing with the develop tool because I think it's the fastest. Sky replacement can work. Now, I always like to try it, and if it's too hard, too complicated, I generally don't because I just think it's way too time consuming. So these are some of the tips. When you add any of the new elements, LUT is a great way of how you can merge things together. And obviously there is a whole list of tools that can bring and add more to it. So Zdeněk, thank you very much. I'm glad it was helpful. Anyway, we try different things. Next time you would put the image like this in front of me, I would maybe try something completely else. Maybe I would try HSL panel and really kind of play around with different colors to remove them. Maybe the orange color, we could really tune it down, or we could turn it to black and white and play around with that. There is countless of possibilities when it comes to editing image like this. This would be my initial try, and I think it's not really that bad. So anyway, thank you very much for sending your images over. Love the bird, and I love what we try to do with this one. So I hope you enjoy it too. For today, folks, thank you very much for joining me. I hope you're going to have a great rest of the week. Don't forget that you can join us for the next episode. For all the Clever Photographer Academy members and our members, all you need to do is to make sure that you follow the link and upload your files. If you are not part of our Clever Photographer family yet, all you need to do is to join our membership, Clever Photographer Plus. And to do that, all you need to do is to head to our website, cleverphotographer.com/membership. Join us, get monthly bundles full of digital assets, and join us for the next photography review show, which will be on 27th of February. Folks, have a great evening. I'll see you next time.